Well, I'm Mama Kush. This is Mel Baker, right?
Mellanie Davis.
Mellanie Davis. Oh, I don't know where I got Baker. Oh, because we get baked all the time. That's why. And this is your boss. What's your name as well?
Chritine.
Chritine?
De la Rosa.
De la Rosa. And I couldn't even have said it like that. I couldn't have. And here we are with two queens of New Mexico, and I just want to get into basically where we come from, where you guys come from. I want to start with you, Mel, and maybe get like a kind of a little bit nostalgic with you, like, and just like, where did you come from and why do you kind of do a little bit what you do?
It's unpack it.
And you know what I mean? Like, especially where you come from.
I am the unassuming Mellanie Davis.
Yes.
AKA Butch Buchon.
Butch Buchon, yes.
I'm already shadow banned, so why not say it just out loud? I am born and raised in New Mexico. My family has been here since the 1600s. We came along with the founding colonizers. We are not recognized as part of the founding families of New Mexico or Albuquerque or the cities thereof. But Padilla, essentially from
hey, you say it again. Padilla family here in New Mexico. Come on, guys.
For those in the back.
Yes, okay.
For those in the back.
Yeah.
Padilla, from the first Moor that stepped foot into the Iberian Peninsula, the first Padilla, were cooks. So it actually meant a pan, cooking pan. So we were referred to as those people. And therefore we were brought over as those people to take care of the founding people.
Okay.
We live in an area that is not incorporated into the city. It is actually named after my family, Los Padillas.
But isn't that so great? Like, okay, it's not recognized as Albuquerque, but it's Los Padillas. You have an area, your family has it no matter what. That's, come on, everybody know. Hey, where are you going to Los Pa?
Los Pa.
Los Pa, it's just, that's great. Like, to hear you talk about it, yes.
Amazing. I mean, when we were allowed back, because we did have to leave during the 1780 Pueblo Revolt. And I want to acknowledge that, even though that we were brought over as cooks for the founding families, we too were colonizers. But during the Pueblo Revolt of 1780, many Padillas fled north, so you'll find much of my family also up north. Later we came back, and it was Mama de Messia, Papa Rafael, probably typical like we are now, shopping probably for some land, property, how we do.
Yeah.
She ended up trading a horse and buggy for the land that is now known as Los Padillas. And that allowed the family to really flourish, have our farms. We raised lots of herds of cattle, just everything.
Hardworking. That's one thing I can honestly say about the Padillas, that, and I know a couple of them, like, throughout whatever the game of how it is, or just even life, even in business, especially nowadays, period.
No, we can straight up address that, because, while it is great that Los Padillas is identified as its own space, and we hold that space sacred because of all of the transition, all of the blood sacrifice that land holds. Later, Papa Rafael, he worked with the Isleta Nation and all of our native folks to help with getting our nation's first people the voting rights.
Yeah.
Later, when my grandmother, Clara Padilla, then known as Clara Padilla Jones, she was Secretary of State. And at the time, she was the highest ranking Latina not only in the state,
go, girl.
but she was in the country. So she was recognized by Congress. That paved way for many Padillas to enter into politics, like Michael Padilla, Senator Michael Padilla. I also have my primo, Andres Romero. He serves in the House of Representatives. And it just gave people a lot of access to understand the bigger picture, but it also gave us clear understanding of when we were targeted during the war on drugs.
Yes.
And that's something that I really hold near and dear to my heart. And it wasn't only the war on drugs. I mean, it was through the Prohibition days because we know New Mexico and Arizona was gifted to the United States. We were used as to pay off war debt to the United States.
Yes.
And I actually have those original maps in my bedroom.
That's sick. That is so sick.
I'm not
even.
No,
but that
I look
is
at them
so
all the time.
sick.
Aslan,
Like,
baby,
if
Aslan.
even to hear you talk, how you like take in your family's history and like that's just like it's beautiful. It's beautiful for you to be able to go back and you as a grandchild of all this and like no, I'm passing down this information no matter what. That's Mal.
Well, I want to check it too. I mean, it's true for many New Mexican
Yes.
families. You know, we're not the only ones. We were, you know, identified and targeted during Prohibition days, and then through that, I bring that up because I like to draw economic comparison to things that and how laws are written and how we're written out of laws. People who look like us, people who live in incorporated spaces like us. But like the Kennedy family, they made how much money
Yes.
selling bootleg? Okay. How much of my family was in trouble for bootleg?
But period, because they
Yeah.
targeted your family in that way. They didn't
My
target.
great
Yes.
grandfather, Papa Rafael, had to have his hands registered with the police because he wrangled cattle and he
Yeah.
had to slaughter cattle. But he had to have his hands registered with the police. Okay, let's start with targeting.
But as a grandchild, were you just like his hands are
Hey,
registered?
we
Don't mess with me.
baby.
And my grandpa's hands, they're registered. You know?
Dust up.
But you really do clear out like the Kennedys like come on, like you just said probation,
Prohibition, yeah.
bringing drug prohibition, bringing, you know what I mean, drugs
All the
into they
bootleg and
did
everything
the
that they
same.
made,
Yeah.
and then they aspired to be basically, you know, royalty in our country. And yet much of my family died. Much of our family has died and blood sacrificed over these spirits that are now sold on every single corner. You know, people talk about cannabis dispensaries opening up every single where. What gas station can I go to that does not sell miniatures? Please tell me.
Yes.
Because I am somebody who is surviving an alcoholic parent,
Yes.
a parent, another parent who is a codependent, and an alcoholic myself. I had to break that cycle.
Yeah. Yes.
But nobody talks about that.
No. But
You
it's
know what I
time
mean?
too. That's time too,
Exactly,
and that goes on to like
exactly.
what you're doing and what you bring to the community, you know. And I want to kind of touch Mount like basically so I was going over your guys and what you guys do, and I see that you guys bring Brads to the front line.
Yeah, so you know, I wasn't planning on, you know, we're a legacy, you know, we're obviously.
Yes.
We're a legacy. The plant has always been in my life in some form, some fashion. At one point, during hard economic times, I even trimmed for many farms up north, what they would consider illicit, illegal grow operations that were white owned.
Yeah.
That many police interactions would even happen with, and they wouldn't fully know.
Yeah.
And nothing would ever happen to them. Even as we were just shut up and keep trimming.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
No problem with them.
Yeah.
But you know, so it's always been in my space. But coming to New Mexico, it's really important to me because I just want to talk about, you know, some of my earlier roots. I was born my first 5 years of life in what were referred to the St. Anthony Apartments.
Oh my God! Yeah. Yes.
The apartments where this tragic shooting
Yes.
And suicide just happened this last weekend. That's where my parents could afford. You know, they were young folks. My mom, obviously, Los Padillas. My dad was from Pajarito. Um, they were pregnant, young, again, with my sister. We were lucky because they were able to learn about home ownership. So they bought their
Amen. Yes.
first home, but it was right there behind Nelson's Meat Market.
Yeah.
Some live there off of Old Queers and Carlos Rey.
That's still a lot of culture, no matter what. That's still
hell yeah.
like that's
Nah,
still
that's our
culture.
spot.
That's still, you
I will
know.
always represent Surabaya
Yes.
forever.
Yeah.
Every barrio, much love, much love. Because like I said, it was not only our family. I mean, it was Barelas. It was the entire Surabaya, Valley Gardens, Sunset Gardens, Martinez, Young, on and on and
Yeah.
on. So many soldiers lost in this war on drugs. You know.
And I think you bringing light to that, like that it was everybody, it kind of makes a communion. Does that make sense? Instead of people really being like, my family's against your family, this family's like, hey, I've lost family. We've gone through it. I do see what you're saying, what you've been through. Actually, you can educate them more on their family than they could ever know.
Well,
you know, in a
what's
way,
important
like
about what you're doing right now is because the way the war affected New Mexico is in many cases our family became divided. And I've seen it within our own family where military became the option. So here's your option, go fight the war on drugs and other black and brown people in other spaces.
Yeah.
Go do that. And that's your way out. We'll pay for your college and we'll take good care of you and stuff like that. No shade, no shade. Much of my family has served. My uncle, Green Beret.
Then they're done with yes.
Bless him, may he rest in peace. My uncle Joe lost him to PTSD and suicide. My dad served as a civilian. My grandfather, who I'm taking care of right now, retired Navy, and right now he's in hospice and we're taking care of him. No shade to people who enlist at all.
Yeah.
I know. Often it's not by choice, but neither is
it's
it.
A survival method. It's
Exactly.
A survival. Yeah.
Neither is the choice that people made when they were first caught with paraphernalia back in the early 80s, 90s. And
Yeah.
that was their first charge. And they brought them in for that. Once you're in the system, they control you. You can be pulled over at any time.
Oh, yes.
Young people were being pulled over with 2 nickels, getting popped with 2 nickels. And now they say, you know, you can get that expunged and all of that. But when they caught them with more than one, or if they were packaged separately, they would charge them with trafficking, which then ups the charge, and therefore it makes it much harder to expunge.
Oh, yeah.
So that destroyed the economic opportunity of generations for our family, for many of our families, for all of our families in New Mexico.
Yeah.
We are the poorest state in the nation, the most undereducated, and I know. I went to Alamosa Elementary School. We had to fucking fundraise for paper. They would send us home with chocolate bars so we can go sell our poor ass neighborhood.
I remember that.
So we could get paid, right?
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
Right.
But look, you've overcome it. I'm not saying you keep on.
My trauma. I demonstrated.
You know, but you've overcome and you're a tool. Not in the worst, but you're a tool to show other people like. This is something that can happen no matter what. Look, this is my family's name and this is what, you know what I mean? And you're also bringing other people to the forefront when you're bringing, you know what I mean, these other brands and you're saying like, look, you too can do it too. You know what I mean? And what there's like, how many brands have you brought out so far?
So, the People's Ecosystem, like I said, I was moving back home, my semi-retirement days, just ready to, chill with family. I did move away. I was fortunate and blessed. In the early 90s, my family was able to get me out for a period. And I developed, in true Padilla entrepreneurial spirit, a portfolio of newspapers, magazines, and .coms,
Yes.
because I was very information driven. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm dyslexic as fuck, so I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Too. I have
Only newspapers or magazines, much less them award-winning, national award-winning, or nothing, you know.
Yes.
I mean, look, I fuck up all the colonizers' languages. I don't care.
You know.
But all I cared about was math. My dad taught me, fuck school, math is all you need to know, you'll survive, period. And it's true. It is absolutely true. So seriously, learn that.
Learn math.
Do that math.
1
that
plus
math,
1.
And it's easy.
It's 2.
It's easy. They tell us it's hard. Only because I had my father telling me it was easy to become easy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was like, that's easy. He showed me how practically how it worked. You know,
there goes though too, like other people not having that support, and like we're support for other people that don't no, don't, like, you know what I mean? And I still don't know. I still don't know. Like, you know what I mean? So much. And I'm so, like, intrigued, just like I said, about the many different brands that you brought out, how you've helped them.
Yeah,
Or like why you've helped them.
the
Like,
People's Ecosystem brought me on board a few years ago, and they first brought me on board as a director of managed services.
look at you, girl, man. Oh my God. Okay.
I was like, what does this mean? She's like, write your job description. And I was like, ooh, let's
Director.
go. No, and it was very thorough because I'm a hyper Virgo. And I listed out all of the things that I thought were important in the industry. And the first thing she tasked me with was meeting with all of the SaaS companies, all of the technology companies in this space.
Whoa, okay.
Because as a publisher, I know how information is very important.
Yes.
Especially as a niche market publisher. Like, I had a whole portfolio of niche publications, and I know how data rich each publication was because everybody was trying to buy it from me all the time.
Yeah.
They're like, "Ooh, let me insert that flyer into that little zip code you got there," and I was like, "Oh, that's
You
that
hot
rich
commodity.
one.
Yes.
Gonna cost you." So I had to learn all of that stuff, right? So Chritine put me in charge of that, and we negotiated what were called social equity discounts.
Okay.
Like places like New Mexico weren't online yet, but places like California and other states had what they called social equity licenses for people like me or others like us who grew up in a war zone or war on drugs targeted areas, had charges, different things like this, different qualifications.
What is that called again?
They were called social equity licenses.
You guys hear that? Social equity licenses.
Yeah, and whether it was a good thing or a bad thing, Christine can speak to that. She has on many, many stages. But I negotiated those discounts.
Okay.
And then it caught on like wildfire. So all the technology companies started doing that. So then Christine was like, "We need you in operations," and
Yes.
and then they had me out in California, and from ideation to shelf, we took to market over 58 SKUs with less than, and can I say it in New Mexico, with less than $5,000 in budget.
Okay.
And then negotiated sales that took us all the way from Redding, California to Palm Springs. So we're represented basically throughout the state without, San Diego and all my friends in SoCal.
So what were your SKUs for other people that don't understand?
It was
That's your actual
smoke
product,
this,
right?
baby.
Okay, yeah.
We told them what was up.
Yes.
And then people were astonished because they were like, "How did you do that so fast? In cannabis and all of these things." And then Christine was like, "I bring on board legacy operators." And that's the ethos of the People's Ecosystem, is
Okay.
converting successful legacy operators and bringing them on into the regulated space, because the regulated space always feels like it's the legacy operators that are taking our business and all of that. When in fact, mathematically, that's fucking wrong. I can prove that all day. Wrong game. Let's.
That's the technical part of everything that she can help us with, you guys. Like, if you want to learn, there's people out here like Mel, like Christina, right? Christine with the E.
Yes.
Christine with the E.
Yes.
That, New Mexicans we're hard-headed, you guys. We're hard-headed, and we do not like to ask for help. But it's not exactly asking for help. Like right now, there's people out here, there's bridges.
Well, and let's get rid of some of that language, because we have been trained and conditioned to not ask for help because we're scared as fuck. We don't want to relive trauma. They're all of a sudden saying, "Cannabis is legal, come on, license up, tell us how you're gonna do it, and X, Y, and Z, and all of this." And we're like, and we're not gonna go to jail or die or feds all of a sudden all up on, you know what I mean? It's very traumatic.
Yes.
So while people get up the courage to get into this space, some people are like, "Let's go," because they've already operated other businesses and have been fortunate enough to experience what that looks like.
Yes.
But some of our legacy operators are like, "Oh, this is very, very scary." And then they hear things like, "It's going to cost $25,000 just to do that," or these pirates that are taking these vulture investors that just try to take all the meat off the bone and stuff like that.
And I was going to just interject real quick and say the other thing that I think that's important here is that there's been a mindset that's been put into the cannabis company by what I call the suits, right? Well, we know how to run businesses. We've run other businesses. We've run CPG markets or consumer packaged goods products. We know how to do this, and they actually don't. And the people that do know how to do this are people in the legacy market that are 80 years in, 70 years in, 50 years in.
Yes.
These people don't have an Excel spreadsheet. They have all of their numbers in their head.
Oh.
They can tell you how much is in the warehouse right now. They can tell you the how much THC is in it.
Yes.
They are actually the best business people who are not trained to be traditionally business people. They didn't go to Yale. They didn't go to Harvard. They didn't go to college, period. But that doesn't mean they're not good business people. They need to be.
They're better because word is bond.
Yes.
They are better because word is bond.
So as Mellanie was saying, when they say, I've seen it on all the stages. I've spoken at MJ Biz, Benzinga, like any stage. There's always a stage where there's 3 white dudes on the stage telling us why the legacy market is hurting their business.
Yes.
Right? The legacy market is hurting their business. No. You don't know how to run the business. And because you don't want your investors to know that you don't know how to run the business, you are blaming people that are actually, they're not the reason that you're not making
And they're
money.
actually the people that are bringing more business. Like you guys that think you can't get into the business, you guys that think that there's not enough money or there's not enough support, like we need each other. Like we need to keep each other relevant. We need, and there's different ways on that. And like those 3 white suits, we got to make sure they need us in some type of way.
The thing is that they know they need us, they just don't want to have us
Admit
participate.
that.
They don't want us to have us participate.
Okay.
That's really the truth. And I've been in the rooms with the people that, the first $1 billion room I ever went into was in 2018. And it was a bunch of like really rich people that they wanted me to come in and teach them about cannabis for investing. And I'll tell you, I'm in the Grand Caymans. It's me. I'm like one Mexican person, me, one African American person, everybody else not of color.
Mm-hmm.
And they're carrying around these suitcases. And this is the first time I've ever been around this much money. And I asked my host, I'm like, what are in the suitcases? She's like, oh, it's cash. I'm like, for what?
Heck yeah.
They're like, well, they're buying Bitcoin. I had never heard of Bitcoin. In 2018, I didn't know what Bitcoin was. They knew what Bitcoin was because they're in the room. Right?
But you're in the room
but
too
now. I'm in the
now
room.
you're in the
like,
room.
And I remember I was out of Oakland and everything was free the whole weekend. Every drink we had was free. Every food we had was free. We're at a dinner and they're serving lobster and steak, everything free. I'm from Oakland. At that point, I'm living in Oakland, been there for 15 years. There's homeless encampments that can't afford to buy coffee, right?
Yes.
And I'm sitting with a bunch of millionaires who totally could afford to buy that lobster, being just treated. And I remember I had a horrified look on my face. And the African American gentleman was sitting here. And he saw me being like, what in the hell is happening right now?
Yeah.
And he leaned over, and this is the thing that stuck with me and has kept me going. He's like, you have to be on the Death Star to destroy the Death Star.
Amen.
Business.
And that was the
Amen.
moment I was like, oh,
Yes.
okay, I'm supposed to be here. All right. I'm supposed to do this work. And so when you're talking about like, how do you bring brands on? What brands are you having? It's because I get to be in those rooms and I don't pretend to keep it to myself. I'm not going to tell you, if you're a brand, I'm going to tell you, this is all the places where you're going to lose money. We had one person come to us and they had a great idea, but because of the way it was being manufactured, they would never sell it in a dispensary anywhere in the US.
Yes.
They didn't know that because they were used to making that product in legacy market.
Yeah.
So they were going to go and give somebody by $15,000. We're going to tell them, yes, we're going to give you an SOP, which is your statement of procedure. That's how I give you instructions on how to make my product.
Okay.
Right? So you're going to pay $25,000 for that. They know that the way you're doing it will never, ever allow you to sell in a store, but they're going to take your money. They're going to take your money. So all the things that we had to learn the hard way when we were like, oh my God, we just got taken for $10,000. We just got taken. I didn't want anybody else to go through that. And because I got to be in the rooms and Mellanie gets to be in those rooms, we kind of know the game. And it was wild when I was like, they don't know more than us.
They don't.
What do you have, like, what could you tell those people that feel like they shouldn't be in the room? Those people, like, because I'm sure at times when you were just starting out, you know what I mean? Those people that feel like because of their past, because of their idea, maybe just because you even see their legacy as far as, you know what I mean? They feel like they shouldn't be in the room. like, and you guys have overcome that. So how, like, what could you tell them?
Chingonas.
Yes.
We're chingonas.
You are. You are.
You
Yes.
know? What I would tell them is, one of the things that we do is we do an accelerator. It's free for people who want to do the accelerator, and we take them through the process. It's an 8-week course. You have to commit an hour and a half once a week, and then we tell you, like, how do you put together an investor list, right? And they're like, I don't know any investors. I'm like, you don't, but you might.
You're going to know now. Yes.
Right? You might be able to help. Like, we might have somebody that wants to do that. How do you do a business plan? People were charging social equity, people who have the least amount of money. They were giving out grants in California, $50,000 grants to all of the social equity applicants if you signed for the contract. And then there were these vultures that came and said, for $25,000, I'll do your business plan. And because we didn't know any better, and we being the social equity world, they were paying $25,000 for something that you could get for about $250.
And just go online and probably get it.
Yeah.
Get your
They
business
were
plan right out.
literally going online and getting it verbatim.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, we've kind of gone through this already. So we're here to help people, and they can learn about how to do it. It's very overwhelming. It was very overwhelming for me. I felt like I don't belong here.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Like, I'm not a millionaire, like, I'm just a regular person that does regular things. But what is true is that, and I said this before, there's money and then there's talent.
Yes.
And that's in every industry. There's somebody who's a technology genius, and then there's money that has to give money to the technology genius so the technology genius can do what they do.
Yeah.
Or they can keep their money not working for them and not making more money.
Yeah.
It's the same in cannabis. Some of the best, I'm going to tell you, this is a true statement. I'm saying it on TV right now. The best product I've had, and I've been in New York, I've been in Texas, I've been in California, Oregon, Washington. The most innovative products are coming out of your legacy market here in New Mexico.
Do you hear that, guys? I keep on looking at the wrong camera. But you hear that, guys? The most innovative ideas are here in New Mexico. They're here, you guys. Get excited, because we're just not pushing them as much as we should, and we're just not standing together as much as we should. You know what I mean? Instead of, like, posting somebody else's brand because you feel like it's against yours, like, you guys, like...
It's not. This is the time. This is the pivotal moment where we really have to lock arms with each other and make sure that we get each other to the other side of this industry, because we're still in its infancy.
Yes.
People are like trying to battle each other out in the early infancy of the regulations and stuff like this. And I'm like, we all got to work with each other tomorrow, the next day, next election, da 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 da. Our businesses are still going to be here. You are highly likely still going to be here, because
that's why you Chingona women coming with your ideas and the love that you do, it does. You know what I mean? It makes a communion. Yeah. It does. And is there? But I wanted to ask you, like, okay, so what brands have you guys, like, that you could tell them about that you guys have brought out? Like, besides, like, you know what I mean? And
so the thing about the People ecosystem is it is built on a distributed business model, which is a very important reason why I joined the team, because I was highly impressed. And I should be, for coming from a database architect, one of the co-authors of 5G at Verizon Wireless,
Database architect.
Chritine De La Rosa was that one that would fly in for the problem. VW did all that. But, built out this beautiful distributed business model. So at the global level, we're heavyweight purchasers of hemp biomass.
How much heavyweight? Let's get into weight. If you guys want to get into weight, let's get into weight. Like, you guys want to put it out there? Like, how much weight?
So at the global level, at a reoccurring level, and actually this might be a good time to talk about it. We're looking for about, over 2 million pounds.
2 million pounds, you guys. They're looking for them.
But I think it's important to know. I think it's important to note here too is that.
But I'm not.
Yeah. So when you think about THC products, right? When you think about THC specifically, it can only be sold in the state that it's made.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And that's good. You want that, because at some point it's going to be national, and so you want your brand to be known.
Yes.
It takes a lot of money to get your brand into other states, and
we're like the Marlboros and the Camel, like we're like the cigarettes of like, that's what
But you can make those same products with hemp, the exact same products, which you can ship to all 50 states. Right? So right
Yes.
now, the dispensaries own our supply, own our how to get to a consumer. I cannot ship anything to a consumer. So we have smoke this and flour, we have rosin, we
Okay.
have resin, we have drips, which is a single shot of 5 milligrams. We have the new Mary James coming out. We have a bunch of stuff happening, right?
Yes.
And so, but we can only do it in that state. So in 2018, when they did the hemp bill, we were all, I'll tell you, I'll just talk about me. I'm such a snob. I was like, hemp, that's so stupid. I do cannabis. Not understanding that there was more money, more market share,
More money,
brand-
you guys. More market share in everything, not
And
just
more-
THC, in everything that plant has to offer,
And
period.
no 280.
and
Yeah.
and you don't have 280E, so you're not paying exorbitant taxes.
What is a 280E?
So 280E is, oh, you want to say it? You do it.
The federal tax.
It is a federal tax. Yep.
Sound
That
like a
means
new
that-
rap name. 280E is coming on stage right now. It's going to
It
teach
is
you the
not
tax
a
game.
rap name
Yeah,
at
you
all.
It
know.
basically means that if you're a dispensary, you
Okay.
cannot deduct anything because
Oh.
you're considered federally. So you cannot deduct your employees, you cannot deduct your rent. So you're basically paying tax on 100% of your earnings, which means you're not making any money.
Oh, that's a lot of small
And a
businesses are
lot
going
of
through right now.
our mom and pops end up don't understand at least how huge that tax burden is, and how quickly it compounds.
Mhm.
So a lot of us from Legacy open up a dispensary and they're like, hey, we can just flip the product. I got it for, my 5, I'm gonna sell it for my 10 or whatever.
Yeah.
Not understanding that all of a sudden in markets like California, at the end of the day, you're end up spending like 65%, 61% on tax.
That is
And
crazy,
also
huh?
just
Like,
robbing. It's a robber baron type of mentality.
but I feel like though too, that's when we go into other brands or other things, clothes or whatever. Like how you know what I mean, and just.
But that's why we're bringing people into the hemp. So at the global level, we're definitely heavy hitters at that level. At the national level, we have a number of people within our hemp portfolio. We have even on the functional mushroom side. So Slumber is a major brand that we're representing. We're actually very excited to represent them because while they have had major online sales, Chritine joined their board, and actually during a realization of diversifying their revenue streams, recommended to them that they needed to get into retail. So we are the
Yes.
first company that is actually taking them to retail at the national level, and that's because we built out a sales team through many of our experiences of head to the grindstone of a lot of our brands not having a sales team behind them.
Yeah.
Many of them will have like maybe 1 SKU or 2 SKUs. Some of them are able to hustle and grind it out and maybe were able to scale their operation because they stacked away or
Yeah.
partnered, did some things. But the larger companies can outpay for us. They can outspend us.
Yes.
So once you get into trouble with those, well, that's a still tax issue.
But
anyways,
the thing is
so
is
the
that-
national level, we have all of our other brands.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
the sales, I think the sales team is also important for people who are out there. The sales team, we went through a couple sales teams. One, again, was like, I can sell cannabis because I used to carry a backpack and go, legal,
Yes.
legacy market to legacy market. And that's how, when we started, I would have people show up at my shop with turkey bags in their backpacks. And they
Hey,
would
it's
come in.
Albuquerque. People
Right.
show up on the shop corner
Yeah.
with all kinds of stuff.
And so they would open it up, I'd look at it, and I'd pay them cash right there and put it in, and we would put them in the eighths, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But what is important to note here is that that's not actually how it works anymore, and that's sometimes where Legacy has a hard time making that shift.
Transition.
Right.
Right.
And so we have to help them and understand that transition. Like, you can't do that anymore. You have to manifest to be legal.
So when you say legacy, because a lot of people aren't really understanding, like you know what I mean?
Ooh,
Legacy.
let's break down legacy.
Let's break down
Let's break it
legacy.
down. Let's
you
break
guys,
it down.
that's you guys. That's us.
That is a term the company coined because a lot of the team comes from Legacy within the people's ecosystem, and we would get triggered every time they would say black market, insidious market, gray market,
Illicit market.
illicit market. They would call us all of these horrific things when I know my family, I know many of our families have blood sacrificed for a plant that they get to buy tax free for many years while we have people sitting in solitary and shit like that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because they caught their first charge and their lives were ruined and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, those things would destroy us. So we decided, no, this is our legacy market.
Oh,
And then
okay,
we turned
yes.
around and we coined legacy to legends because that's what we specialize in, is working with our legacy operators and accelerating them and planting them well rooted into the regulated space.
I like
Because
that, yes.
it's those entire networks that also get onboarded in the regulated space. So I know so and so sell this specific medicine, and they have a huge following because how effective
How they
that
network, how
medicine
they,
is,
yes.
and they're out here in the legacy space. Well, no dispensary is ever going to compete with that particular network until they actually onboard them. Duh. It's commercialism 101, and I didn't have to go to fucking Harvard or Brown.
Yeah.
Like, I came up from Los Spa, boo.
Yeah, but we gotta, but other people have to understand that too. It's basically like once they come on board with you, they're a legacy. They're given
Well, they have
like the
access
tools.
to-
They have the access. They have to become
Yeah.
what they need to become.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's up to them on how they use those tools and become.
So let's
you
say
know?
that you have, and just for brands, because I know we're talking about brands. Let's say you have a brand that does X, and they do it in the THC market. We're going to put them in the THC market, and then we're going to do a sister product on the hemp market. Why? Because on the hemp market, that legacy operator can now ship to somebody's home. So when somebody comes into this dispensary or any dispensary, the dispensary knows the customer, but the brand does not. Think about all the brands, Nike, Adidas, any L'Oreal. They know their customer because they take data from their customer. Like, oh, Christine has bought this rouge 4 times this year. We're going to send her a 15% discount code because we want to keep her as a customer.
Yes.
We don't have that in the cannabis industry unless you're on the hemp side, because on the hemp side, I can sell directly to you, and now I know your name, I know what you buy, I know your purchase history, and I can send you 15% off your next tincture.
Yes.
So you're still in the THC market because you want to be there, but you want that sister brand to be in the hemp market so that while we're waiting for federal legalization, we're getting national
Recognition from the brand.
from the brand for the hemp side, knowing that eventually there's some people that will only ever want hemp, and there's some people that will only ever want THC. But we have to prepare. When you look at the larger MSOs, that's what they're doing. That's why they keep opening different states so that they have brand recognition. If you're a 2-person shop, how do you have brand recognition? How do you compete with that? By doing hemp.
So this is what I have to ask you though too, both of you, especially being these business moguls. You guys are basically just on fire for New Mexico and on fire for, like, you know what I mean, the industry. How could we simplify it to, like, say me, I come to you with an idea, and be like, and me telling you, like, this is what I have, but I don't think I can do this. Like, how could we simplify it just to somebody else, to just get them on board and believe them in themselves enough to do it? Do you know what I mean? To make the first move, because a lot of things are first moves.
Yep. I think we should talk. I would like to talk about a particular company. It's African American owned, Latino owned. They're a couple, very, very young, and not being ageist, just young, like
Yes,
in their 20s,
yes.
right? And they have a salve. They have a salve that
Yes.
is so amazing that when we got the products, the R&D products, the grandmothers thought they were amazing. They were like, when can we get this? How can we get this? When can we get this? So we brought them in. They met with the whole team. They went with Mellanie. They went with Chef. We're like, how are we going to help you get into the market that you need to get into? And so we went through the whole process with them. We onboarded them. That's what Mellanie says, onboard. And then we were like, oh, you don't have access to gallons of this one ingredient that you need that can only be purchased by a doctor. You cannot purchase it because you have to use this product.
So that's a networking
So
period.
I got,
with you
Frederica,
guys,
which
yes.
is one of our people that we work with. I called her. I said, hey, is there anybody in your network that can help them buy this? It's not a weird thing. They just need a doctor to make the first order. And, they were like, maybe we can give them half of our company. I'm like, why would you give somebody half a company to make an order? Like, you don't need to do that. You can give them a finder's fee, $250 or whatever. And
So don't sell yourself short.
No.
A lot of people sell themselves short
Yeah.
because they want to make it, because
Yep.
they want to be in the industry in any type of way. So they
Yeah.
sell themselves short. So that, like, don't sell yourself
Right.
short. Like,
So-
and networking, people don't really understand like how much networking, like, is what helps everybody out. And especially New Mexico, like, people don't like to meet other people and stuff, but like I was saying, I feel like there's a buzz in the air right now of communion, of people coming together with art, music, cannabis, business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just
This is a time, and and then at the local level. So we talked about what we do at the global level, what we do, at the national level with a lot of the brands we represent. So I mentioned Slumber, Maison Bloom. We're onboarding a few others in the beverage area, and then Sidekick or some pre rolls, some THCA pre rolls. There's a number. There's a portfolio of about 20 brands at that level.
yes,
That gets to enjoy the benefits of our national sales team in all 4 quadrants.
yes.
At the local level, though, and why I'm excited to be back in my state of New Mexico, because they deployed me all over the country before I got to come home.
Yep.
I got to experience Califas and all of the crazy regulations there. I got to go to New York, experience all the crazy regulations there, and everywhere in between. I
Yeah.
got to tour millions and millions of square feet of canopy. I've been in private canopies. I've seen the largest canopy in California, which was Latina, 2 sisters, Latina owned, 1 million square feet in Califas, California, until Glass House came in, which was police owned. And then they doubled, or no, they went to 10 million, but then they were producing fake flowers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then snitching on neighbors that were in the illicit market. I don't know. There
So
was
everything
crazy-
has politics to it, guys.
everything
in some
has
type of way.
politics to it.
You know,
It does. It does.
Yeah.
So,
At the
so
local level?
finally at the local level, being able to come here, because because the ecosystem is so well known nationally, they licensed all of the technologies behind the conversions of biomass. And what that means is, you get your biomass at flour. Those of you who trim understand there's the keef that comes off. That's biomass.
And they
The
get tested. Yes.
extra, there's all kinds of things. And you convert that biomass into rosin, hashish, resin. You could do distillate. Well, what we do is we then take that, it could be your edible rosin, your distillate, and then we convert it further into a fast acting, precision dose, and reliable experience that you're going to get that experience every single time.
Yes.
Our company has licensed those technologies across the board.
So you guys have the license to put the numbers, to put people's products where they need to be, because
Right.
that's what you need is basically your numbers, your coding, and everything to be regulated.
But because this company doesn't gatekeep, they also renegotiated deep discounts behind these companies. So any of our players that we bring on board, any of our brands that we accelerate into the regulated space has access to this technology, which makes them able to competitively price against the huge, large multi-state brands that, you see.
Yes.
26 across the shelf. You can't compete with that when you have your 1 or 2 SKUs,
Yeah.
But it gives our folks that leverage. And because in the Southwest, we already have the creativity. Now pair that with the technology. We don't have to wait 45 minutes for a high to kick in and then not know how the dose is going to go, if it's going to hit you that way, this way.
So it is here, you guys. The technology is here in New Mexico.
Yeah.
The networking is here in New Mexico. We just have to be able to not be scared to learn. You know what I mean? Not
Yep.
be scared to network with each other, and just come together.
And then to demonstrate our connections and also the ethos of the ecosystem and our pledge. You can look on our website, the People's Pledge. It's very important to us and really is our
What is your
guideline going
website?
forward. Thepeoplesecosystem.com.
You guys hear that? People's system. What? I'm dyslexic.
Peoplesecosystem.com.
Yeah.
But how we introduce the technology to the state of New Mexico and why this is really important to me, because it demonstrates our connections, it's the number 1 selling brand in over 14 states. New Mexico,
14 states.
number 1 selling beverage. It's a 100 milligram shot. You get to measure your unit right along the package, right there. the capful, in case this falls off, the capful is only 5 milligrams. So you know your dose every single time.
100 milligrams, you guys.
And it's cannabis quencher, CQ. It's amazing. I encourage people to actually take the first dose and sip it because it tastes exactly like fruit juice. You don't have any of that bitter aftertaste, no surfactants or masking agents that a lot of people that use that are bad for your liver. It doesn't leave that oily residue at the back of your palate that gives you the really bad, I call it the really, really bad cotton mouth.
Yeah.
So the payload is so amazing. We've experienced other beverage brands even say, "Wow, ours is only this much," and you could really taste it in ours. And I'm like, well, let's talk about the technology that you're using, and let us demonstrate and get you some to R&D with.
Yeah.
Because we've negotiated those prices, so then our brands locally that are experiencing already the innovation could go ahead and take advantage of that opportunity, and then ideally we get to accelerate them to the national level, at least through hemp, and they build their brands at the national level through hemp. And as Chritine, she's one of the few operators, one of the few legacy operators that actually sits at the FDA table on the weekly calls and gives input on rescheduling and descheduling, helps leverage us forward so then we can introduce our THC products. Our folks from New Mexico will literally have that opportunity to build their brand not only in the state with our fast-acting technology, but take it to the hemp with fast-acting technology,
Yes.
and then THC nationally once we reschedule, deschedule.
Yes,
That's why
yes.
I'm home. That's why I'm back home.
Yes. So basically, when they work with you, they're getting this marketing team. They're getting everybody that's coming behind them with the technology, with the support, and they just have to want it. They just have to want to grow, and to
Exactly.
work with you
And it
guys.
takes that drive, and you got to be hungry.
Oh, yes.
Steve Jobs said it. Stay hungry.
Period.
You got to stay hungry because this
Yes.
game is going to whip you around like no mother. Like early in the interview, I was talking about how word is bond with legacy operators, and therefore they are better operators than many of those in the regulated space. It just holds true.
Yes.
It's just like
Yes, you guys are the CEOs that are bringing, you know what I mean, just the new generation and New Mexico to a forefront.
Well, it's
like
the perfect pairing.
period. Yes.
It's a perfect pairing because I do believe the state did well with the unlimited licensing, the lower pricing, the ease of access to getting to licensure. One area that they could definitely improve is removing the barrier of entry, is getting rid of the address when you're applying for your license. As a business person, and especially since this is an industry in its infancy, this is something that we've seen across the board. That's a starvation tactic. That causes economic harm to our legacy operators or to even just
So that's when
operators.
you're getting your
What this means is you actually have to have an address so you could apply for your license. So you have to have it leased or whatever. So you've had to already have signed that lease. I have done that many times. You're paying your rent and whatever, but you cannot be operational until you get your license. So therefore, you're bleeding money because you are not operational. That makes no business sense.
Do you think we're really gonna ever get that though, where they're not gonna go around that?
How
You know what I mean?
How it should happen is somebody like me or somebody applying for even a micro business
Yeah.
license should be able to apply for their license. They're approved, and then they'd say to the state, "Hello, state, I would like to apply." After they get to look at the competitive market and see where they're going to apply their license, say, "I'd like to apply my license to this address. I talked to the landlord. Here's the letter of intent to go ahead and lease to me.
Yes.
Can I go ahead and put it here?" Just like I've had to submit for approval for other locations. They go ahead and put their approval there. And then that triggers the state to go ahead and do their inspections or whatever. And it would cut out so many unintended consequences that the state may and operators may be experiencing.
And so many fears that other people have, like just even getting into the industry.
Mm-hmm.
You being able to explain that to them,
Yeah.
in the simplest way.
It's just a money drain.
Yeah.
It's an unnecessary money drain. And whereas this should be true economic opportunity, and it should be treated as true business development. I mean, our businesses are earning with high velocity are pulling in millions of dollars, and in tax revenue, they should be held accountable to our dispensaries, our manufacturers, our entire supply chain along the way, rather than trying to repurpose unintendedly harm to our operators. They should
Yes.
be working along with us to determine, because we are still in our infancy. We know the regulations are wrong. So do they. So let's stop this in the middle of being mean to each other and we're bad people and trying to, re-traumatize me around harm and follow me to spaces that, you shouldn't be following me to.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so excited, you guys. Yeah. I'm just hearing like you guys like you said, the shroom company you guys have, like you guys are just doing all kinds of
Talk about
different
that
stuff,
one.
you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's a New Mexico company here named
Yes.
Psych.
This
Psych
is one of the first
Society.
New
Oh, I like
Mexico
Sykes, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and so they gave us their chocolates in April of this year. I fell in love with them. I'm a microdoser person. Like, I'm not somebody who I mean, I have gone on journeys, but I don't always want to go on a journey. Sometimes I just want to feel
Just feel euphoric.
I
Just,
want to
yeah.
have a glimmer.
Yeah.
I want to be glimmery. And so when I tried their chocolates, I was like, I feel glimmery. I feel like a glimmer. And it's not, I'm not seeing things. I'm able to operate in my daily. I can do my email, like all that stuff. So that was like really, I mean, I've done psilocybin before. This is not psilocybin, it's something different. So I'm very excited about that brand, because that's a brand, that's a good entry point brand for people who are like, I kind of want to know what that looks like, but I'm afraid that I'm going to have a bad trip. Like, that's the thing. But they don't understand,
Yes.
like, there's not a bad trip. It's just something you got to go through. But
Yeah.
they might not want to do that, right?
Go
every day.
through the
Yeah,
trip.
right.
Go through the trip.
So having like those microdose,
Don't trip.
but having those microdose chocolates, I think, are really good. They're really good company. I know the owner of the company. We work with him. So stuff like that, like mushrooms are another thing, and you can see that that's just going to be kind of an awesome space for other clients who maybe don't do cannabis. Maybe
Yes.
they, like, I have, my partner is allergic to cannabis, so he cannot do that. But he can do these mushrooms, he can do microdosing. So it's all about, and we talk about this all the time, it's always about natural medicine,
Yeah.
right? Because why would I want to take a Vicodin if I can take a mushroom?
Yeah, I mean, that's so true.
Yeah.
Like, especially as far as like mental health and stuff. Like, people
Yeah.
don't really realize how microdosing can take the place of like a lot of, and I'm not telling you guys not to take your medication and go take shrooms. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I mean, if it's a Tuesday and you want to, that's cool. But like, I'm just saying, there's other options, and I think that's good that you guys are bringing things to the forefront, and that's awesome, you guys. I just want to thank you guys for
Thank
coming. You know what I mean? This is my first podcast. I just want to thank Weed Snacks. I want to thank Julia. I want to thank you guys for being part of this. We're going to have many more podcasts, and I just can't wait to see you guys at events and work with you guys on any aspect. And like I said, thank you so much for coming. So much. And we're going to smoke after this. That's what we're going to do,
Yeah. I want to say thank you, and we look forward to your next podcast.
Yes, thank you. And this was just done off the whim, but you know what? We pulled it off. Thank you,
did.
ladies.
Yeah,
Heck
thank you.
yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mama Kush, straight talk.